in junior high, I remember attending a pastor's retreat. This was something that happened every summer, sometimes in the winter, but it was mostly in the summers. Pastors and their families from my dad's church denomination, that was the Korean Presbyterian Church of America. I forget the exact name. They would often it would descend on some desert hot spring at some cheap motel, or at least that's how it looked, filled with like hot tubs and pools and such. And they would just do whatever they did. I actually have no idea. I just knew that they got together and it was supposed to be some sort of gathering with a purpose, but I was a kid, so who knows what that purpose was. I was already a shy, insecure kid who would rather not try to engage with others for fear that I might say or do something stupid. But I do remember this one particular summer, I was swimming at the pool um, when a little kid, I don't even know who it was. It was like some elementary school kid. Couldn't have been more than like 9 years old. Looked down from the side of the pool as I was in the pool, hanging on to the side, and he yelled out, looking down, like, "Hey, look, this guy has boobs." I was mortified. I tried in the moment to act like it didn't bother me, but the truth was, I felt something I've never felt before, like to that level, that degree of shame and embarrassment. Um, I already thought my face looked kind of goofy, and honestly, at times really ugly because there was a period where I had to wear these old man glasses, like the kind that Walter White wears in Breaking Bad. Yeah, I had those glasses. Like I have pictures from my childhood where I'm just like mortified that I had those glasses. So I had body image issues already, and I was already a fairly chubby kid. So hearing this from a little kid was just like, oh my goodness, I was, I just was in shock. Now I didn't just see myself as just something, that was just kind of like, there's nothing, anything particularly special. But now I was like super ashamed of myself, my body. I was unappealing. I was fat. I was gross. My body was something worth mocking. Now, fast forward a couple years, and I'm back at one of these pastors' retreats. It might have been the same motel or whatever it was that we were all staying at. Um, but this time I was a little bit older. I had gained some height, so which kind of made me look leaner, I guess. And this time I met someone new. There's this girl, petite, cute, kind of had an adorable doll-like voice. Some other pastor's kid that has never been to one of these before. And I fell hard for this girl. To be honest, I couldn't tell you why I liked her so much. Like, I don't know if this is the experience of other people, but when you first start liking somebody, you don't really know why you like them. You just know that you do. And I never really thought too hard about it. And this is just how it was. I know some people were different. They actually tried to figure out why they like somebody. I never really thought too hard about it. I just thought like when you like somebody, you just like somebody. Um, and as far as I can tell, I don't have a particular type. Like the people that I've been attracted to in the past just seem to vary significantly in, all kinds of features. So it wasn't anything particularly, um, particular feature. I just liked who I liked, and that's just all I knew. But of course, she lived a bit of ways away. I mean, you gotta think this is back at a time when we didn't have like, cell phones and Ubers and all this, right? So she lived about an hour plus away, and we're both in the ninth grade, so clearly we're not going to be driving to see each other regularly at all. Plus, gas costs money, and I didn't have any money, so I found other ways to try to stay in contact. And like I said, it's in the olden days, so before emails and so on. So contact was a little bit more difficult. You had to call via landline, and I remember it cost per minute, to make these calls. So I had to be kind of judicious in how long I spent on the phone. Um, the other option was to mail physical letters, which was another thing that I did do. And initially, she showed interest in me. I mean, um, I don't know if we explicitly had the conversation about liking each other or any of that, but it was fairly clear that there was some mutual interest. There was like flirty type, and you know what I mean, right? We would talk on the phone, write letters from time to time, but it didn't take very long. I don't know if it was just like a month or two, but she had lost interest. And I don't know exactly why. I kind of have a vague recollection that some kind of explanation was given. I think it's something about the distance and just not being able to see each other, which, upon reflection, maybe that makes a lot of sense. But I think at the time, I was too focused on the idea that things were ending. And that was particularly hard because, like I said, I fell for this girl pretty hard. This was the first girl that I really liked like this, right? I mean, I had small crushes when I was in like third grade, fifth grade, things like that. But this was the first time that I thought there was something developing because there was kind of more of a two-way. It wasn't just a crush, right? It was somebody who showed interest back. So it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I didn't know how to react. I was shell shocked. And so I don't even know if I made an effort to try to win her back or just gave up. I don't know. I can't even remember exactly how I reacted. What I never acknowledged, at least not explicitly, was that I felt rejected. I felt like I was not someone that girls would remain interested in for an extended period, right? That if I were to open up and then just to show my truest self, then they would just lose interest, you know? I think the narrative that formed emotionally inside me was that I'm not the kind of guy that girls like, right? Some people like say things like, "Oh, you're the nice guy that people don't like." Like it wasn't quite that, because I wasn't always nice, but I just wasn't the kind of guy that girls liked. If girls, or like I would tell myself, like if girls got to know me, then they might start losing interest in me. Um, and what I tried to ignore most was that belief that I was ugly and unattractive and fat and awkward, right? I never really confronted those feelings that were lurking kind of in the background. And because I tried so hard not to think about it, I mean, like, who would want to, right? It doesn't feel good to think about how disgusting you feel looking at yourself in the mirror, right? These self perceptions were there, but not kind of like explicitly like present in my mind. And that's the thing, when these views that you have of yourself are there but just hidden from yourself, right? It shows up in ways that you act. It shows up in the way that you react. um, but you end up trying to twist the narrative to make it about something else, right? You make excuses for what you're really feeling, right? For me, to protect my insecurity, I told myself that it was something about the girls, right? That they just never gave me a chance, that they never really tried to understand me or get to really know me. Um, so instead of acknowledging that I felt terrible myself about myself, I made it about other people not giving me a chance, right? I was the one that got rejected. I was the one that gets dumped. I'm not the one that hurts other people and turns them down. I'm not the one that ends relationships because I'm like the loyal one. They're just not, right? And it's crazy just how much these lies I told myself just clouded me from seeing reality. Because the truth was that there were girls that were drawn to me, who liked me for who I am. And in their eyes, I wasn't awkward. I wasn't some ugly loser. That for them, I was appealing and they wanted to be with me. But when you're so caught up in your own lies, it's just kind of hard to see that. I mean, you can see my perception of what others would think of me, and that versus the reality kind of play out in 10th grade, right? See, there's this girl that I liked in class. We're not going to name names here, but she was just generally pretty friendly girl, friendly with guys, girls, it didn't matter. So even when she did talk to me, I don't think I took it as anything. In fact, if anything, I was always kind of guessing, like, does she actually like me? Does she not? Is this just how she is, right? I mean, I knew that there was other guys that she talked to as well, right? But I couldn't tell if it was just like just friends or if she was actually interested in one of them. But at some point, I don't know if it was jealousy or because of the uncertainty, and I was just annoyed by feeling uncertain about things. I just wanted clarity. But I decided to at least just put it out there, and I just confessed my feelings to her. I believe in a letter. And to be honest, I didn't know what to expect. Maybe a part of me was kind of expecting rejection because that's again the narrative that I had built up for myself, right? It's like I'm the one that gets rejected. So I guess I was in part expecting that classic, I just want to be friends speech, but that's not what happened. It actually turned out that she liked me and she liked me a lot. But it was just hard because she wasn't actually allowed to date. For various reasons, she wasn't allowed to date, and she had family members that were at the same school that would probably rat her out, and then so she would get caught if we were caught dating or making googly eyes or something at school, right? So if we were to spend time, we had to do it kind of in a sneaky, clever way, right? We would have to spend time. If it was outside of the school, it had to be in group settings, probably, um, where it was clear that it wasn't just the two of us. Sometimes we were trying to find ways to sneak some time out together while we're at school, away from prying eyes, so we could just be have some alone time. At first, I guess there was some excitement around the sneaking around stuff, but to be honest, at some point, I found myself kind of annoyed by the whole situation. Um, Lying is not something that I think I enjoy doing innately. Like it's a lot of work. Lying is a lot of work, right? Sneaking around is a lot of work. It's just not all that fun at some point. But more importantly, I found myself losing interest. Um, and at the time, I, you know, all I knew was I was feeling differently towards her. I don't know if it was just the situation or if I was going through some other stuff that was more prominent on my mind. Like I said, like, this was a time when I was living in Colton and I was just miserable all the time, regardless, right? So regardless, I just knew that the initial attraction and excitement dissipated. Maybe that some of that is normal. Um, but of course, I also know now, like thinking back on it, I also wasn't very open emotionally, which means that there wasn't a chance to connect on some deeper level, right? It wasn't as if we had a deep, intimate relationship in that sense. I mean, how could we if I'm withholding that side of me, right? But I wanting to believe that I was never the bad guy, never the one to hurt other people, but rather the one to kind of receive hurt. Maybe I was trying to play the hero. I don't know what, but I didn't want to talk openly face to face to her about it, about the changing feelings. You know, Instead, I was a coward. I was a true grade A bitch. That kind of coward who chose instead to just start acting disinterested and distant in the hopes that she would get the point, right? I think in my mind I had thought at the time that I was doing her a favor. I mean, this is some twisted shit, right? That I was doing her a favor by not making it explicit, that I wanted to end things and then explaining myself like that it was for her to spare her feelings. But, if I were to be honest about it, I was just a bitch. I was just a coward. Um, and to be honest, I don't know what I hate more now, looking back on it, the fact that I acted like such a bitch or the fact that I didn't acknowledge to myself that I was being a bitch, right? Like the fact that I was lying to myself and couldn't see that I was actually being a coward. Um, I thought, I think now, like maybe if I had some good friends that because I didn't really talk about this relationship with other people, but, I wonder if I had developed better, like, friendships where I could talk to somebody about it. Maybe they would have been honest and hold me accountable and, made me or pressured me into facing up to what I was doing. But of course, I didn't really open up to anyone. So what was nice is I could get away with anything as long as I just didn't acknowledge it to myself, right? I just needed to lie to myself. And then I would feel better about myself. Um, And the pattern didn't change in college. I mean, people's behaviors don't change unless you actually face whatever it is that's leading to that behavior. So I just did more of the same in college. You know, I kept on lying to myself and said I was the kind of guy that got rejected. But the truth was, I mean, the reality was very different. I had actually had no problems getting dates. I mean, I did get rejected a lot, but that was partly because I was casting a fairly wide net and I was just asking people out left and right, um, doing dumb shit to try to just connect with anybody, to cast as wide a net as possible to see if anybody might be interested. Um, but that just showed I just didn't have any real standards, right? Like it wasn't really about what I was interested in, it was more about who would accept me. Um, I mean, you got to remember, like, I still believe in my own head. I just viewed myself as so low. I felt so low about myself, right? I still felt like that fat, ugly kid, even though others might not say I think so. Um, and I also thought of myself as more or less the kind of person who didn't hurt other people, that would give anyone a chance, right? That was interested in me. So I did do that. I just gave anyone a chance, even if I might not have been very interested. Again, the twisted thing is I thought that I was doing them a favor, that I was going above and beyond being a good person, but the reality was instead I was probably misleading them, right? So here I was giving girls here, there, everywhere the impression that I was more interested than I probably was, engaging them physically to appease my own insecurities, not necessarily for them, but it was more to just help myself feel better. Then, honestly, I guess the term for it would be ghosting them instead of talking things out with them, because I was too afraid to admit to myself that I was the one who was ending things. Maybe because that memory of having that done to me, like I thought like that was an awful thing that people can do. Like I would don't want to do it to other people. Um, and it's crazy how much I would twist the situations to make myself look better than I was. But the reality was simple. Instead of dealing with my own insecurities, I just hurt women by misleading them and using them so that I can feel better about myself. I was a fucking asshole. And the worst kind of asshole, the asshole that's in denial about his assholetry. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's really what it was. I mean, you would think that dating around a lot would make me at least a little bit less insecure. That maybe that reality of having gotten dates would make me feel like, oh, hey, maybe I was wrong about this narrative that I've had for myself. That maybe I should have some confidence that I am someone that someone could find attractive or interesting or worth spending time and energy on. But if you're sensing a theme in any of these stories that I've been telling, it's that I at least was constantly lying to myself to protect my own ego, my own pride, my own sense of self, a distorted sense of superiority. My goodness, I feel like I'm describing a narcissist, and maybe that's exactly what I have been this whole time. And these lies were so prevalent and powerful that, uh, like, you know, unless I actually did the hard work to kind of face it head on, it just continues to do its thing in distorting reality on my behalf. All right. So, like all things in life, what I needed was something to just like smack me upside the face and then like grab my head, stick it next to a mirror, and then force me to kind of see myself for who I really am. And it didn't come until my 20s, during my PhD years. At the time, I remember, what was it, like a second year in the PhD program, first year, second year. I was introduced to somebody. I forget exactly how the introduction happened. Somebody set me up on some blind date or something. And honestly, I went just to be nice. I wasn't all that interested, but I met this person and I wasn't interested in them all that much. But I stayed in it because I felt like the longer I was spending time with this person, the more I felt like I was a good boyfriend in that relationship. Or at least that's what I believed, right? I felt good about myself through the way that I would treat her. But the truth was, it wasn't necessarily because I liked her all that much. It was more I liked the way that I felt in the relationship. But, that only lasts for so long, right? Eventually, I lost all interest and I wanted to end things. So it was, again, the same pattern. It was the same pattern. But the one thing that was different was I think I stayed in this longer than I have in any of the other quote unquote relationships that I've had. I mean, relationship is not the best word for what I was doing before, but this is the longest that I've been with somebody. And given that, I felt like, at least ending things, I should at least do it the quote unquote right way, um, through at least a conversation. I did it through the phone. It was the first time I had initiated a talk like this. Um, the one where you say it's not you, it's me. I've always let others do that to me, if it happened at all. Sometimes I would twist the situation so that they would dump me, if it came to that. Um, but this time I just wanted to do it. I mean, part of it honestly was that I wanted to end it quickly instead of dragging it out. But I also know that I was doing it at probably the worst possible time. I mean, she was at the time, going through, a really tough time with a lot of stress at her own graduate program. Um, and so there's a lot of stuff happening outside of the relationship that was already weighing on her. And I didn't give any warning. It's not as if she saw it coming. It was just complete blindside. She was blindsided. It was just a phone call and a blunt statement saying that I can't continue in this relationship. And she understandably cried and was confused and was wanting to have some sort of explanation to at least get a grip of what in the fuck was happening and why it was happening. Um, but I heard her crying over the phone and I felt like shit. I felt like shit in a way that I've never felt before. I never wanted to believe that I was capable of causing someone so much pain. Um, it was worse than being rejected. At least if you're rejected, there's somebody you can just blame, right? You can be mad at the other person, but you can be mad, you can be resentful, you can direct all these feelings outwards. But here, there's only one person that I could see as responsible for this pain, and that was me. You know, I just these questions just ran through my mind. Like, why did I let it get so far? Like, it's not as if I didn't have a sense fairly early that things wouldn't work out, that I wasn't all that interested. I mean, I was aware of all this. Why did I stay in this thinking that it might work out, right? Or if I didn't know early on, right, then I should have spent some time to at least think about it and to see it instead of letting all these feelings get deeper or the sense of commitment and connection get deeper before doing this. This is just waiting this long just made the pain so much worse. I mean, the signs have always been there. I just ignored them. God, I hated myself so much. Um, and what made it even worse was that she was so gracious about it all. I mean, even after I left her deeply hurt and confused, without any explanations of why I ended things or where this all started, or without even giving it another chance or even having a conversation about the details of what was happening. Like, it was after only a few weeks where she sent me this letter and a care package letting me know that even though she doesn't understand, she's still confused. Um, that she was grateful for the time that we had together and that she wishes the best for me. And I felt even worse. It's funny. When I got rejected, I never responded in that way. I never responded that way. I was so quick to just be angry and blame and be mad and hurt. I never thought to take a moment to see the good in the time that we might have had together. Or if I was just straight up rejected from the very beginning, it was At least the fact that they had shown consideration and it wasn't just like a heartless no, right? Um, I cried for days and I just lost all interest in dating. I just lost all interest in dating. I was depressed, probably not really aware of just how depressed I was, but I was depressed. I mean, at least all the physiological symptoms were there. And I was lost. At least when it came to dating relationships, I was just lost. I was feeling shitty about myself. But now it was for a whole different reason. I didn't feel shitty about myself in the sense that I felt like ugly or, you know, unattractive or anything like that. I just felt like I was the biggest asshole in the world. I couldn't deny it. I was inconsiderate. I was immature. I handled this just so poorly. And I had to face what I did because it just smacked me upside my head so hard. Like there was no denying it. I mean, you would think that this experience would be humbling enough that it would be a great learning opportunity. That maybe I would have done a big 180. And, you know, I mean, I guess I learned a few things, but the truth is that changing behavior is hard and changing old lies, old narratives are hard. Um, So, even though I think I became a little bit more thoughtful in my dating life afterwards, once I was able to kind of get back on my feet and get back into the dating world, um, it became clear when I got married that I hadn't addressed all of the things that were going on in me. Um, Marriage does something to you. When you get married, um, forget about the legality of it all. Like, I think there's something about the commitment to marriage and the kind of situation you put yourself in when you do get married, when everything about your lives get intertwined in this way, that you leave yourself exposed in ways you never have been exposed before. And it became much more exposing for me because I happen to have married a psychologist, someone who is both understanding and very perceptive when it comes to feelings. And also, I happen to marry somebody who is very good about holding people accountable. So she saw through my bullshit. And as she spent more time with me, she saw through the bullshit I was throwing at her even more clearly. And the bullshit here I'm referring to is the kind of twisted narratives that I wanted to tell myself, to give myself excuses for feeling a certain way, or to be in denial about how I was really feeling. When I was too absorbed in my own feelings, and feeling hurt or slighted by something she said, I played the same story out of my head. I tell myself, like, she's mean, but I'm going to be the bigger person and absorb it. Right. But the truth was, like, as always, I was a coward who didn't have the strength to just address whatever issue I had with her and to just address it head on, to talk about it openly. You know, Even something as simple as just admitting that I was hurt by something she said. I couldn't even do that. And when she was hurt by something I did, my ego felt so threatened that I tried hard to find a way to make her pain go away or to make it out as if her pain just doesn't make any sense. Like it's like her own issue. It's not anything about what I did to her. I did all this because I wanted her pain to go away so that I felt better. And as a result, like instead of actually sitting with her and understanding her experience and experiencing um, and really getting kind of a feel for the experience she had, right? To get a feel for how she was hurting, I just left her all alone to deal with not only her hurt, but also then trying to carry mine because now she's like having to fight against my narrative of saying that she doesn't have a good reason to be hurt so much, or like her hurt doesn't make sense, or, yeah, you're hurt, but let's go ahead and just try to just, wipe it clean. Let's figure out something to do to make that pain just go away. When what she needed was just for me to understand her pain. And that wasn't fair to her. She really deserved better. I mean, anyone deserves better, but especially if you marry and commit yourself in this way to love and honor somebody, like that person deserves far better. And there's only one reason that we're separated now. I never got my shit together, and I never owned up to who I was. All she wanted was honesty for me, and for me to just kind of own up to my feelings and shortcomings. You know, she can be very forgiving if I just acknowledge how I screwed up and then take responsibility for it. But all I want to do was to try to find ways to get out of my part in things, my responsibilities. I made it about her. I made it about everyone else. It was my greatest regret. It is my greatest regret. I mean, it is my greatest regret. I mean, who I was throughout the entire marriage. But this is how I've always been. Always late in addressing my own shit. And in the meantime, leaving a trail of pain and destruction for others to deal with. And the one lesson that I always seem to fail to learn is that once I've done what I've done, there's no going back. There's no undoing what you did. There's no undoing the impact you left. And that's how I know that, you know, it's going to be something different, even if, I mean, I doubt that there's any going back now. But even if there was a path to going back, it would still be very different. There's just no other way. Because once history's made, it's made. And there's no undoing all that pain and hurt that I caused. To all the girls that I dated, I'm sorry for leaving you without clarity, without answers, for leaving you without any closure. I didn't care or respect you enough to give you anything beyond some made up image that I had of myself. You never got a chance to see my true self, the good, the bad, the ugly. Or if you did see it, I would lie to you about it. I have no excuses. This isn't about me being young or needing to make these mistakes to learn and grow. No, this was just me being a bitch, plain and simple. And you shouldn't have had to pay for my immaturity and cowardice. That's not on you. And maybe it's too late for apologies. I want to believe that people are resilient and that I wasn't worth the trouble, that you've moved on long ago. But even if late, I wanted to offer you the truth. And if there's still any anger, pain, resentment that you still feel in your heart, like, hey, I'm here. I'll be here to hear it all, if anything, so that you can get that closure that I wasn't able to give you, to have a little bit more peace about the past. Um, but more than anything, I would want you to know that you were worth more than how I treated you. Um, and to my now ex partner, I don't know if you'll ever hear this, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to experience the worst of me. That I didn't take the time to acknowledge who I was, how broken I was, how um, insecure I was, and that my own shit just bled out into the marriage. And that I had cut you so deeply, wounded you again and again and again over those years. That even now, I'm probably still doing the same. And there's no undoing it. There's no making up for it. There's no taking away of those scars. And there's nothing I know that I can do now to, um, make any of that at least a little bit more palatable, because I remember just how painful those times were. I remember the tears, the screaming, the yelling, the madness. I mean, there were good times, but it often felt like the pain and the hurt just overshadows so much of it. And the fact that I had left you with those memories to deal with for the rest of your life, I am deeply sorry. I wish that I had worked on myself earlier, before I even met you, when I had all the opportunities I did from all the experiences that I've had. Like, there were plenty of opportunities. And instead of your getting the better version after I have grown and learned from it all, you got the still shitty version. And in fact, you got it in the worst way. For that, I'm deeply sorry. I hope one day that there could at least be some peace in knowing that your hurt doesn't go unnoticed, that your scars don't go unseen, and that one day maybe you could find what you didn't get from me all those years ago.